Hello, how we doing? How we doing? Let me crack open this cold one here. How we doing? Happy. What's today? Thursday. Happy Thursday. It is the 9th of July. And welcome to another episode, another stream of Devon's Movie Dungeon, where I, Devon, from this channel, srankproductions, yaps about movies, movie news, things I've been watching, TV shows as well, those kind of things. It's a yap fest. It's a yap fest. It's been a minute again. I've been, busy on little camping trips and work stuff and other stuff for this channel. But we're back, and I think this episode will be jam-packed with much of me yapping. Like I said, I always yap on here, but this is gonna be extra yaps tonight because we got a lot to talk about on the docket tonight. I'm gonna be talking about my Criterion Collection haul, along with some other physical media that we've gotten. Here's a little sneak peek. Not Criterion Collection, but an example. The whole pile here. This is probably the most I've Bryn and I spent on movies in one go. Probably. Like, I think it was like Black Friday basically. Because Criterion Collection had a July 4th sale, and I didn't realize that Barnes & Noble has Criterion Collection. So that's what happened. When you're in a physical space, you get to see more. But I got good pile here. We'll be talking about that probably first, and then we'll jump into what I've been watching, and then we'll go into even more fun stuff. We'll be talking about the new Dune trailer, the first full-length trailer. We had a pretty good teaser last time, but we got a trailer that shows quite a bit more. It maybe shows a little bit of what the plot could be. And then we have, this is for Dune, that's for Dune 3, that is. And then we have, as of this morning, we got another 30 seconds of Godzilla Minus Zero, and some other stuff around that. But yeah, basically, that's kind of the agenda for tonight. So there's a lot there. I'm going to try my best to keep us moving along because, as you know, I like to keep these streams around an hour and a half. I'll try my best to do that. But, yeah, welcome to the stream. If this, first time here, and if you're watching this after it's not live, feel free to leave comments of stuff you've been watching. And maybe if you got anything in the Criterion Collection sale, and I guess this is somewhat of a yearly thing. Because the Criterion Collection, at least the Barnes & Noble associates there, told us that every July 4th and then every Black Friday, Criterion Collection does big sales. Let me see. I should make a screen where my camera's bigger. I think it's something I need to work on for this. So I'll try my best to show it on this little camera here, instead of me trying to mess with it right now. But yeah, let's get into it. So first off, I guess I'll start before the Criterion Collection sale. Neon Pictures had a sale a couple of weeks ago, almost a month ago, and they were doing a buy one get two free site-wide, so even on like t-shirts and stuff. But I decided to just try to go after some movies that either I liked or haven't seen. I just try to get some Blu-rays and 4K discs or whatnot. But yeah, got these two. and you're wondering, well, you just buy one, get two free. The other one is Exit 8, which we reviewed on this channel as it was a video game movie. And that one's technically a pre-order. So, that one's supposed to, I think, come in August, I think. So I haven't got that one yet, but I got these two. Got Cuckoo, which I think came out in like when did this come out? 2024. Has Hunter Schafer, Dan Stevens, Jessica Henwick in it. I don't really... I remember people kind of talking about this movie, but I didn't really know what it was about until I literally read the back. Yeah, basically it says Gretchen leaves America to live with her father, who has moved to the German Alps with his new family. After arriving, Gretchen is plagued by strange noises and bloody visions until she discovers a shocking secret about her own family. And it's funny, Discussing Film, the Twitter account, is the main quote on the back here, and it says, "Sure to scare the living daylights out of you." But, yeah, I grabbed this one. There was the one thing I didn't get, and this was kind of sucky for me. They did have a steelbook of Infinity Pool, which I really liked that movie. And it was like out of stock, like while it was in my cart, or like as I was ordering it, got out of stock, unfortunately. But yeah, got this one. Seems like a good thriller, so I'm looking forward to watching that one. Then got Nicolas Cage, Pig, one that I remember a lot of people talking about. Yeah, 2021. A lot of people talking about this one. It was like this was around the same era. I feel like because Mandy, I think that Ethan and I watched. I think that was like around 2018, 2019. It was that and this movie were kind of the ones that people talked about as being like, Nicolas Cage brought the sauce. He does fantastic work. But yeah, basically, and I know a little bit about this. He's trying to go after his pig. I don't know if it's like, a John Wick kind of tale. But yeah, a truffle hunter, played by Nicolas Cage, who lives alone in the Oregonian wilderness, must return to his past in Portland in search of his beloved foraging pig after she is kidnapped. Yeah, literally the quote says, "The best work Nicolas Cage has ever done." And includes deleted scenes. But yeah, I grabbed this one. I didn't see Color Out of Space, actually. But yes, we did watch Mandy. I think it was the same director, but didn't that director have some allegations or something? I think that might be why. I don't remember. Maybe I'm totally making that up. I swear there's something with that. But yeah, here's my two neon. Like I said, I'm waiting for Exit 8 and there's a pre-order in the mail. So that, like I said, this was kind of separate from my haul, but I wanted to shout those out. That was a little appetizer. So yeah, here is, I'll literally show it to you. Director had allegations. Yeah, I don't remember what they were. Here is this pile. Like I said, this is probably the biggest haul that Bryn and I have ever, occasionally I'll try to order. I guess to be fair, I did order like 4 or 5 Blu-rays and 4Ks Black Friday a couple years ago, where I got like the Batman, the Thing, the Lighthouse, and the Northman, I think, as well. I think I got all the movies, and I got all those on 4K, and they were like $20, $15. But yeah, I found out Barnes & Noble has both an A24 as well in their collection, but also a bunch of physical media there, like DVDs, Blu-ray, 4K, steelbooks as well. They had a steelbook collection. I almost got a Day of the Dead, George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, had a collection there. And it was 30% off, but I was like, I can get more bang for my buck and get these movies. And all these movies, actually, well, 2 of them I've seen before, but these other ones I haven't. Technically 3 now, but for specifically, the Criterion Collection was 50% off. And if you've bought a Criterion Collection movie before, they usually start around $40. Some of them are maybe go up to 50 depending on what it is. If it's like brand new, I think they may go around that price. But I saw a Criterion Collection post about it on Instagram, and they said at Barnes and Noble, 50% off. And I'm like, I didn't know Barnes and Noble had that. So we went to our Barnes and Noble, and sure enough. So I'm adjusting the cover on this one. This one's a little bit funky. So yeah, I got them for 50% off, so Bryn and I split it. And I think we got some good stuff, so... And I'll actually talk about this one first. I Am Cuba, or also called Soy Cuba. Spanish film, Spanish spoken film, but this is a Cuban and Soviet co-pictured film, but it's directed by Mikhail Kalatazov. And I've, weirdly enough, it was some tough choices for us, but the reason I got this was I was reading Jacobin magazine, and they had an article in there about 70s films, talking about the centennial of American history films, and it recommended some like movies that came out around that time that maybe not many people know about. And yeah, so it's 1964, so it's 10 years before the centennial, but they recommend this movie, and then when I saw it on the shelf, like I said, 50% off, I was like, you know what, this seems good. And we did watch this one, which I guess I'll wait to talk about. I guess I'll just talk about it now. This movie was fantastic. It is... So it's shot in 1960s, a couple years after the Cuban Missile Crisis, but the story itself is an anthology of different characters. We follow different characters until we connect to a different character. And we follow along, and basically it is, like I said, different characters, 15 minutes a piece maybe, Cubans, and what they're experiencing pre-revolution. So it isn't a documentary. There is a script and stuff that they're following, but basically the movie leads up to the Cuban Revolution. So about like a couple years, maybe within a year of the Cuban Revolution. So, but they're just showing different perspectives of different people in Cuba. So you have there's a farmer who has a story in this. There's a revolutionary who's like a college student, and he's in like a group of college students who are handing out zines, and even while they try to assassinate a local police chief. There is a sex workers, kind of our first story in this. And yeah, and what really struck me too, like politics aside, out of this movie, obviously the context is, from a Cuban context, even in a Soviet context to some degree. What really I really loved about this movie is that this movie is so well shot. And I'll talk about the movies I've been watching, but I watched All the President's Men, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. Watching that movie and then watching this the next night, an amazing double feature. The cinematography in this is next level. It's like I don't know why we lost the sauce, but and I forget the name of the cinematographer, but the cinematographer for this has done a bunch of other Soviet films, and he was given like the Stalin Artist Award or something like that in the 70s. He died, I think, in the late 70s. I think a lot of people died making this movie. I think I read that, by the way. I think I read that like so many people were just on the ground doing a lot of work on this movie that when they came back to Russia, they said that like they died from exhaustion or something crazy like that. I don't know how true that is, but well, yeah, this movie was just well shot. Like, there's so many beautiful long takes. And then you have like wide shots too, and there were some times where you could see the wire that the camera is like gonna be sliding on, but it really didn't fucking matter because it was that good. like they had multiple scenes where there's like 100 people on camera, you know, and it just like to get that orchestrated and make that look good and feel like I said, it's not a documentary, but it feels almost like a documentary. It's just that well like shot. And there's just so many beautiful scenes that go on for like 2 minutes straight without a cut, where there's dancing involved, or a character's, you know, traveling, you know, through a bar, or traveling through the streets, or whatever it is. It's just a really beautifully well shot film. But like I said, like I've always been interested in like the Cold War and whatnot, and as a communist, I would say, an anarchist, I find, you know, a lot of what you know, there's a lot of movies that weren't available in the United States, and watching this just gives you that perspective that you don't. I think more Americans should watch this movie because it gives you just a perspective that, you know, isn't taught in schools. Or, you know, like I said, this movie was shot months after the Cuban Missile Crisis, and you know, even relations between the Soviet Union and Cuba after that weren't great. But the fact that, you know, they still made this movie and the director was really passionate about it, fantastic. What movie I started watching? Yeah. I Am Cuba, or Soy Cuba there, in Spanish. But the reason that we even have this is because it wasn't until the 90s that Martin Scorsese and it was Francis Ford Coppola like watched this, I guess, or like got a cut of this somehow, because it wasn't widely available outside of Russia, really, in the Eastern Bloc. And they watched it in the 90s and basically had it restored. And it wasn't until... And there was also there was a Russian dub, and then obviously a native dub here with this one, which is what this copy is. But yeah, we watched it, and there's just so many cool like historic elements, like facts to this that I'm missing, and I was reading about. But I definitely want to watch, because I have an interview here with Martin Scorsese. And also they have the alternate Russian dubbed soundtrack, which might be interesting to watch too. And there was an English subtitle, obviously, with this. But yeah, a lot of bonus features on this that I definitely need to check out. But if you're into, like I said, looking at watching movies from, you know, I want to watch more Russian movies, especially during the Cold War. I think that is, like I said, not many Americans tap into that, or a lot of that movies weren't available until, honestly, in the last 15, 20 years. Like I said, this one took a while to actually even get to the United States, and it took Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah, they love long shots without a cut. The cinematographer also did, I don't remember the name now, but a movie about, I believe it was about like post World War II Russians, soldiers, I believe. I'm forgetting all the names off the top of my head, but fantastic movie. I gave this 5 stars, and like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about the other movies I've been watching. But this one we decided to watch after we bought it because, I don't know, with 4th of July and everything, I'm not very patriotic by any means, and watching All President's Men and then this was kind of a great double feature to kind of say screw it to the man a little bit. So yeah, highly recommend this movie. If any of the things I said interest you. It's 2 hours and 21 minutes, so it's a little bit longer, but it's beautifully shot and has great storytelling in it. Let me keep moving here. One of the reasons we went, because, you know, we're trying to collect all the David Lynch films. We're trying to collect them all, like Mulholland Drive, 2001. We need to. Me and Bryn watched this. I watched it, I think, twice. Maybe I watched it in a film class, but we watched it together for the first time back in like 2018, and it was before I would say I was, a little bit more literate in films, and not as familiar with David Lynch's work at that point. I think I only saw Eraserhead and Elephant Man. Elephant Man supposedly coming out on the Criterion Collection like in the next month or two. But yeah, grab Mulholland Drive, arguably David Lynch's most famous work, outside of maybe Twin Peaks. A movie that, like, you know, tackles, you know, the Hollywood movie stars. It's also a lesbian film, which at the time was still pretty taboo for more mainstream audiences. But yeah, I hope to rewatch this again, but we are slowly collecting all the David Lynch stuff. All the David Lynch things. It's my David Lynch impression. But yeah, I should say, I didn't even show the boxes of the other ones, but like, there's the plastic ones, and these ones are, I guess, I won't call them cardboard, but you know what I mean, a more paper material, when the other ones are plastic. And I don't know what the difference is, but I forgot to share that, like, in these, in all of these, there's booklets that have, you know, interviews with the directors or a film historian, so those are really cool, and there's usually 2 discs for 4K and Blu-ray and bonus features. But I know all the David Lynch ones are approved, and when you buy them with the wrapping on it, it will say, like, director approved. So that's pretty cool. I think it's really cool. It makes it feel more personal that way. But yeah, Mulholland Drive, and then we got another David Lynch film, Blue Velvet, Bryn's favorite of his. Laura Dern's kind of first bigger role, if I'm not mistaken, before going on to Jurassic Park, 1986. I think this was his second film. I'm not mistaken, right? Because I think it was... No, third film. Elephant Man. It was Eraserhead, Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, right? Yeah, crack open a 6 of PBR when you watch Blue Velvet. I know, it's one of Bryn's favorite lines. But when you open it, I didn't actually fully look at this yet. Has the apartment number, has the Robin eating a bug. Booklet here, like I said, and the disc. I guess it only has 1 disc in this one. But yeah. Blue Velvet. Hell yeah. But yeah, slowly making our collection. We now have... Because we have Lost Highway on Criterion Collection. And then we got... movie that won a bunch of awards that I said I've been wanting to watch. Decided to get it. Sentimental Value. Sentimental Value there. A Norwegian movie, but yeah, up for... It won a couple of the international awards at the Golden Globes and the Oscars there. The art style is very... what's the word for it? Almost comic booky, graphic novel looking. But yeah, it has Stellan Skarsgård, the GOAT, on here. The only Nepo family we do cheer for in this community. But yeah, I don't really know too much about the movie. I know it's a drama, and that it is kind of sad, from what I understand. What does it say here? After the death of their mother, 2 sisters must contend with the return of home to Norway of their estranged father, celebrated filmmaker, played by Stellan Skarsgård, and an actor, so yes, celebrated filmmaker Gustav Borg. In the case of Nora, an actor, he hopes to reconnect by casting her in his new film, a project that both inflicts fresh wounds and reopens old ones. With a ensemble cast that includes Inga Ibs' daughter Lilius in a breakout performance, and Ella Fanning. This film, yeah, delicately balances each moment of humor and hurt, inducing a stunning emotional exploration of how the past echoes in the present, and art can transform pain into catharsis. Yeah, this is gonna make me cry, probably. You know, I say movies don't make me cry, but I'm slowly but surely that's breaking, where I get teary-eyed now, and I feel it in my bones. My body doesn't like crying. That's a whole other problem. But yeah, this seems good. I didn't know the plot really at all, and that sounds beautiful. And then, once again, I started taking flyers. This is where we really started just taking flyers on things. I've said on this series before, I wanted to watch. I like everything I've seen from Guillermo del Toro, and why not watch his first film, Cronos, starring Ron Perlman. I didn't know Ron Perlman did more than just Hellboy with him. And this movie is basically about a dude who finds a golden device. It's like a scarab, shape of a scarab, and he soon finds himself the possessor and victim of its sinister, addictive powers, as well as a target of mysterious American named Angel. Featuring marvelous makeup effects and the haunting imagery for which Del Toro has become world-renowned, Cronos is a dark, visually rich, and emotionally captivating fantasy. Yeah, I guess the movie's about a highly unorthodox tale about the seductiveness of the idea of immortality. So yeah, I don't know anything about this, but it's 1993, Guillermo del Toro. I need to get tickets, hopefully, to see Pan's Labyrinth is coming back to theaters, and that is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think out of the work I've seen from Guillermo del Toro, my favorite work of his. That's supposed to be coming back to theaters, I think, this November. But yeah, I wanted to watch more of his movies. They also had Pinocchio there, which I still haven't seen, which I heard was good. But yeah, Cronos. Looks cool, sounds cool. And then I got this one because I've always wanted to see it, and now I'm loosely, I guess, collecting Stanley Kubrick, because I have his other movie I got on Criterion Collection last year. What's it called? Oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. It'll come back to me. Eyes Wide Shut is what I got, with Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, our GOAT, our chairman of AMC. Nicole Kidman. This poster is really cool. I like their two faces. It just says Cruise, Kidman, Kubrick. Eyes Wide Shut, which I think it was his last movie. And the only thing I know about this movie is there is loosely people like point to it as being like pointing out the secret society of in the sense of like there being a pedophile like society of rich elites is what kind of the movie I think is about. That's what I heard people talking about, because people talking about with like the Epstein stuff, Epstein files. People pointed to this movie being kind of a lens into that world. So we'll see. But I guess it's a Christmas time odyssey is what it literally writes here, into a surreal sexual underworld whose hidden power structures are laid frighteningly bare. The film makes the fulfillment of the director's decades-long desire to adapt Arthur Schnitzler's novella, Trauma Novelle, Dream Story, as it's called in English, and the culmination of his obsessive interest in the relationship between institutional authority and the individual. Released in 1999, the film also serves as a fitting coda to a century of cinema by one of its greatest visionaries, an endlessly tantalizing labyrinth whose myriad symbols, mysteries, and meanings are still being unraveled. So, I haven't seen all of Kubrick's stuff. I've seen a couple things. I mean, obviously, I've seen The Shining. I don't know how many times, at least 1,000. Arguably one of the best horror movies, if not movies, ever made. But yeah, people talk about this movie a lot in the political world. And I was like, why not grab it? Why not start collecting Stanley Kubrick stuff? You know, I feel like it's a good director to collect from. And I'm still blanking on the name, and it's on the tip of my tongue. It was the movie that was the meme of the. It does have Mr. Cruz, yes. Dude, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. It takes place, I think, in like the French Revolution. Or not French Revolution, but like colonial France, I think. What's it called? And it's like 3.5 hours. But there was that one meme on Twitter from a couple years ago of some dude made like a highlights of it to the song A Lot by 21 Savage. What's that? What's it called? I'm just gonna Google it. I'm cheating. It's not Les Mis. Barry Lyndon. Thanks, Bryn. Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon. Yes. Which, when did that one come out? Actually, was he not the director on that? I see he's a writer on IMDb. Who directed it then? No, it says director. Well, Barry Lyndon. Yeah, it's about an aristocrat in England. Sorry, Barry Lyndon. Duh. But yeah, those are all the Criterion Collection. But they also had at Barnes and Noble Radiance pictures or Radiance. I'm not familiar with them, but they seem to be a Criterion Collection-esque physical media collection company of some sort. But they also had a little table of that, and this is where I really took a flyer, folks. We're going crazy with it. But this is part of their collection, but it was also 50% off, and so I think the total was $30. And so basically, this is a 3-pack here. I did the math. You know, it was like $10 for 4K, 3 4K discs. That's pretty good. You know, and I was saying to myself, you know, I'm if I ever want to be a full-fledged cinephile, I can't even be I can't be just watching, you know, mainstream American productions. You know, like I said, I got I Am Cuba, I got Seminole Valley, but we got to go deeper. We got to go deeper. I got this collection called Wicked Games, and it has 3 movies, as you can read here: The Wicked Go to Hell, Nude in a White Car, and The Taste of Violence. These are 3 films made by Robert Hossein, Hossein, Hossein. Weird enough, there's 3 movies, but there's only 2 things, 2 discs, or 2 sets here, because one of them is just the Western, The Taste of Violence. So yeah, these are French movies. These are French movies from the early 60s. And I was just reading a little bit about them, and they seem pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? 3 movies. I want to start watching, like I said, the deep cut shit. But these, I think Nude in a White Car, I read it was like I think a noir. And The Wicked Go to Hell is, actually, it's right here, yes. Yeah, I think these will, most of these are like noir. And these are 2K restorations from the original negatives, which is pretty cool. The first one's about 2 inmates trying to escape. And it's based off a novel. A moody, fatalistic noir. Then in Nude in a White Car, on an evening walk, Pierre is lured into a white car by a mysterious woman. Inside, he finds a nude blonde whose face remains hidden. After their liaison, she pulls a gun and orders him out. Determined to uncover her identity, Pierre traces the car to a home with 2 blonde sisters, one reclusive and the other paralyzed. Reuniting with Dard, Hossein crafts a seductive mystery echoing Hitchcock and classic noir. So that's those one, and then I think this one, like I said, is a Western. Be a cinephile, and I'll be a cinephobe. More like a cinephobe. And this one here has a big booklet here. In a Latin American country ruled by a dictator, revolutionary leader Perez, played by the director, holds up a train to kidnap the dictator's daughter. in order to trade her for captured revolutionaries. Perez takes her across dangerous terrain with her 2 lieutenants, Chamaco and Chico, but the bounty on her head is high, and the compatriots may be easily tempted to switch sides. Anticipating later Zapata westerns that focused on revolution, like A Bullet for the General and The Wild Bunch, and The Taste of Violence is one of the most visually striking Euro westerns, bearing resemblance to the work of Akira Kurosawa. So I was reading about these, and I was like, all right, these seem like bangers. Deep cuts, but bangers. So I took a shot on these. So I'm going to watch these at some point, and I'll follow up with you all. But yeah, I really like the plot of all those, especially the Western there, being, you know, about revolutionaries, and it mentions Zapatas, which I've been interested in. I've read a little bit about the Zapata movement. So yeah, that's my big collection I got. So I have a lot of movies to watch on top of movies that are constantly coming out. But let's move to what I've been watching. Let's really dive in now. Let's see here. All right, you can see that. Oh yeah, we'll be talking about Dune in a bit. Speaking of Martin Scorsese. You like Dune? You know I like Dune. That's my weakness. Where is what I've been watching? Yeah, we have a lot. I have a lot here. But 2 of these are related to video game movies, so I won't talk about them. But I will say I watched them. So after we streamed last, which was that on June 11th? It's been over a month, right? It was the anniversary of Jurassic Park, and I decided I should watch Jurassic Park because I haven't watched it in a long time. Have you ever seen the 70s movies The Warriors? Of course. Seen it once or twice, actually, I think I've seen it twice. We watched it, I want to say during COVID. Rewatched it. At least I rewatched it. But yeah, Jurassic Park. I have the box set of all the Jurassic Park movies. They're doing a musical on The Warriors. The guy who made Hamilton wrote it. Will that be a good thing? I thought people don't like that guy. My stock is, you know, all I care about is Les Mis. That's my musical. And Phantom of the Opera, which we will be watching at some point soon because we've been phantoming out, you know. But yeah, Jurassic Park. I have a Jurassic Park box set. And so I watched the first one in all its 4K glory, and man, Jurassic Park's got to be in my top 10 of all time. I mean, I think it's a classic, still holds up. Like to this day, like it's incredible what they were able to pull off, considering they almost went stop motion with all the dinosaurs. Like that, like imagine that alternate timeline where they went stop motion. And I didn't even know this, but Spielberg had that movie coming out, and he also had Schindler's List come out in the same year. Crazy change of tones, huh? And I was reading, or watching rather, they had a little documentary on there. They have 2 documentaries. They have one from when the movie first came out and one from like 2011, which I watched the 2011 one. And he talked about how he was reviewing the dinosaur scenes, like how the animation was going, over like early version of FaceTime equivalent, right? They doing it over the computer. And he was doing that as he was shooting Schindler's List. So like he said he'd finish from the set and he'd, you know, come late at night and then he's like, I'd go back to the hotel and like I'd be watching dinosaur footage, and it was like the weirdest thing. And he described it how like it kind of both movies were a blur to him because there was no like he didn't stop in between the movies. He just, you know, he did Jurassic Park and then he flew to Poland and was doing Schindler's List. So pretty wild stuff. But there's a bunch of other bonus features on there. What's cool about that box set, though, is I do have the original deluxe DVDs of Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 from when I was a kid. I still have those, and it's the same discs in this collection, which I thought was kind of cool. And it has the box, like, it even has the disc art on it, so they didn't just, like, you know, put whatever. Like, they have the actual old discs and or artwork inside of it and stuff. So that's it's pretty solid. I saw Jurassic Park in the 3D release in theaters over a decade ago. It was a good conversion. Yeah, that would be really cool. But yeah, perfect movie. It has the adventure to it. It has the you know, the what's the word I'm looking for? The spectacle, right, of like seeing the dinosaurs. Like, you're seeing it along with them, and they have like just enough to keep you like in awe. And then there's, you know, the moments of levity, but then there's actual danger. Yeah, I still say Jurassic Park is a perfect film. I know people, you know, even my dad always points out that when the kid gets shocked in electric, because he's an electrician, and when he gets shocked in electrical wires, that he would have been burnt to a crisp. That's like one of my favorite memories. But that's what makes the movie fun, is like there's a level of obvious disbelief, but just like there's an adventure to that movie that just like I don't think you can do again. Like, I don't know if everyone's gonna ever do it better than making the adventure that is Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those movies that I wish I could go back to 1993. I wasn't born, but if I could go back now, wipe my brain, go to 1993, and see a movie like that, like opening night or something, and see people's minds blown, that'd be awesome. That's what this kind of movie is. It's a historic, you know, moment, because like I said, that was the first movie that had those type of special effects. It was supposed to be all stop motion and stuff, made by Tipton there. I think Tipton was involved, who did a lot of stop motion stuff. Hold on, I need to drink some water. Great haul, thank you. Big haul. Then we watched They Will Kill You. It was on HBO, I think, because I think it was leaving soon, or maybe it was just added. And so we gave it a shot. And I remember this came out, and I brought this up back when I watched it. When did it come out? Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Both the movies came out like within a week of each other. And They Will Kill You looked, plot-wise, very similar, where it's girl versus a rich family or a rich institution, you know, fighting her way through it. And I liked Ready or Not, so I went and saw Ready or Not 2. But They Will Kill You is not exactly... I mean, it is that, but then there was a little bit more to it. Both movies have Satanists in it, light spoilers, but both of them have Satanists tied to it. But They Will Kill You is a little bit more closer to trying to be almost more like an anime, samurai, martial arts. I'm probably using those terms way too loosely, maybe inappropriately, but the way the camera and the actions were shot during the actual fighting scenes really reminded me of, like, you know, Samurai Jack, for example, like that kind of style to it. Which, so the fight scenes are pretty cool, but there wasn't enough, I felt, in the fight scenes to keep me, like, they were cool, but then like there was a couple of them that were good, but then it just like didn't happen enough, or just, I don't know, just they weren't hitting as the movie progressed. But I did find the Satan portrayal at the end a little bit different than Ready or Not. But both of them, once again, kind of a similar plot. How many movies are you at for the year so far? I'm over 50. I'm pretty sure. I think I have a number somewhere. I think it's only on mobile. But I think we're over 50, so we're on pace right now. For sure. But yeah, They Will Kill You. It's a good one of those, like, if you're into those type of movies of just, like, kind of a loose slasher or martial arts, you against 10 dudes kind of movie, then you might like it. But I thought there was just better movies with this type of plot. And then I watched Jurassic Park, right? And 5 days later I watched Disclosure Day. And I was telling Ethan a little bit about this on one of our streams, I believe. I hate to say it, man, but, like, this was not it. I'm not saying I went in, like, with super high expectations, but I'm like, all right, Spielberg will at least give me, like, a fun movie, right? And it was kind of fun, kind of. At least the first half. This movie suffers mostly from the fact that it changes tones of what it's trying to be. It feels both like a heist movie or like a chase movie where, our characters are trying to go deliver something or deliver information in this case. The aliens, slight spoilers. I mean, if you couldn't tell from the trailers, it's about aliens. We're disclosing information. That's the goal, right? But also this movie has like, if you've seen Signs, it's kind of has that element to it, but then it also has like this slight science fiction, we could maybe more call it supernatural element with, like, oh, there's two people on Earth actually have these abilities, because they were abducted or something, or part of the, I won't spoil too much more, but like they're connected, right, to the aliens. They're like I said, maybe they were abducted, or what, something like that. But then there's also like fleeting, what feels like it's supposed to be more, conversations about religion in this movie of, like, is religion even, if aliens come, will that create a different religion? Will that increase belief systems? Will that completely blow up, the perspectives? It was like a weird, and then it never really, like, it felt like it was trying to be smarter in some ways, but then it wound up not, it just came across as just like, if you were high and a dude starts talking to you about aliens, and then it just kind of is like, yeah, dude, yeah, that's cool. But the tone is, like, super serious. But it comes across to me where it's just like me and Ethan were talking about aliens with chillaliens.city there, the other night, and like, I like talking about aliens. I think aliens are cool. But this movie was really trying to be serious. But then there was comedic moments, like you kind of see in other Spielberg movies, like Jurassic Park, but it just didn't hit. And then the biggest gripe I have, not the biggest, one of the biggest gripes, I think the biggest gripe for me is still the tone and, like, the pacing of this movie and, like, trying to fit too many ideas in. And but one of my other gripes I have was, and usually this shit doesn't bother me as much, but the alien, and I'm going to spoil this movie now at this point, so maybe mute if you're, skip ahead for the next 30 seconds. The aliens in this movie are your classic grays. If you don't know what the grays are, if you're not into alien shit, basically, if you've seen a picture of an alien drawn, they're either green or they're gray, right? And they have that classic, head shape. That's what the aliens look like in this movie. I was expecting a little bit more creativity, and if not, why would one of the main points in the movie is when she's revealing, or when our main character is trying to disclose, like, he's the one who has the information, he's keeping it on the down low, and his sister who's with him, he's like getting mad, or not his sister, his girlfriend is getting mad, like, why do you keep hiding stuff from me? And he's like, fine, I'll show it to you. And the footage is like, from Roswell or whatever, and they're pulling up the alien bodies, and they're clearly aliens, and she's like, what is that? Is that a... I think she literally said, is that a kid? Are those children? I think she asks. And he's like, no. And they never say the word alien. I think they might say extraterrestrial, not in that scene, but later on. But even then, it just doesn't fucking work. It just feels like our characters have never conceptually thought about there being something outside of our planet, or they've never watched or engaged with science fiction in any capacity. Like, it just breaks the illusion of what the film is supposed to be super serious. It's like, no, you just be like, that's fucking aliens. If you saw that shit, you'd be like, it's an alien. It just takes you out of it. And I'm all for suspending disbelief and letting the movies, you know, have their moments and have their, you know, the plot points. But it just, like, I'm like, bro, you didn't even, like, you didn't make, you know, it's not like Independence Day where the aliens looked one way, right? They had a very unique design where, like, if you saw that, you'd be like, maybe I probably would still say it's an alien, but at least, like, there'd be a little bit more of a conversation about what is that, right? As opposed to, like, yo, we got, like, the classic alien look, and you're like, what is that? I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's like, bullshit, you have. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. You've seen exactly that image before, at least at some point in your life, if you are a 40-year-old person. Like, it's such a disappointing movie. It sucked. And I hated it that it sucked because I think it's an interesting premise. Spielberg is just not. He did not hit on this one, unfortunately. So on to Red Faction Origins and Hitman Agent 47. Like I said, these are video game movies. So I won't really talk about them too much, if at all, because those episodes haven't came out yet, right? Or did Red Faction come out? I don't even know it came out yet. Offhand. I feel like I'm misremembering. Spoiler Town is over. You can unmute. Yes, unmute. But yeah, Red Faction Origins, Hitman Agent 47, video game movies. You can hear my thoughts and hear our thoughts on this channel. Red Faction did. That's what I thought, but I wasn't entirely sure. But you can go watch those. All right, that's like one plug, okay? That's my one plug. You know, if you want to hear more, you go watch the other thing. Video game movies, but yeah, watch those. And then I watched because this was also, I think I got AMC Plus just to start watching Lestat, which I haven't talked about yet because I've only watched one episode so far. From Interview with the Vampire on AMC there. But we had that, and I saw The Death of Stalin was on there. So gave that a watch because I remember people talking about that when it came out. Even people on the left saying it was actually pretty funny. And like tying in once again into, you know, I Am Cuba movie. And it kind of started around here, but I've been reading, I've been reading, you know, I try to read a lot, but one book we've been reading for my one study circle has been The Land We, what's it called? Where We Live Is Our Home, I think is the full title, but it's about the Jewish Bund, which was in Eastern Europe, more specifically mostly in Poland and whatnot, and it's basically about communist Jews who are organizing in their neighborhoods, in their factories, in their cities, you know, defending against pogroms and whatnot in the early 1900s, and also their role in the Russian Revolution and post-revolution. So I've been reading that, and like I said, I've always been interested in the Cold War and start of that as well, but also, you know, World Wars and whatnot, obviously as well. So I've been reading a lot about that, and a lot of my theory I read has been coming from that time period. So they got that part of it was that, but watching this movie also kind of got me interested. So watched it, and has Steve Buscemi in it and a bunch of other more comedic actors in it. And the movie is historical, I guess, satire to some degree, because there is some actual history to it. But it's satirical in the sense that, like, how things probably went down aren't accurate. But yeah, it's basically Stalin dies, and it's the rush to power by the Central Committee of, who's going to take over. Everyone's trying to, use the power vacuum as an opportunity to benefit themselves or to benefit the country. Some of them are just selfish. Some are trying to look out for the USSR. Comedy was pretty decent throughout. Like I said, it starts to get more serious towards the end of the movie because people are actually getting killed and shit like that. I'm not gonna say this is like a pro-communist movie. I am not a Stalinist. I'm not an authoritarian communist really at all. So my take on this movie would probably be different than someone who believes in those things or is passionate about those things. I am not a Stalin fan. Hot take, I know. And I don't believe the whole everything America said, or I shouldn't even go down this rabbit hole. But history happens, and there's the good and the bad and the ugly, and completely ignoring, I think, a lot of the bad and the ugly, ignoring that and saying it's, propaganda against, communism or whatever, I don't think is a good way to analyze history or analyze, politics in general. Long story short, I'll leave it there. If that makes you mad, feel free to comment, I guess. But, I think there's pros and cons to a lot, and you should be able to critique any country and any country's history. And every country has obviously negatives to it. So that's kind of where my opinion is on it. There's some stuff I think the USSR did good at, and there's some things it didn't do good at. And one of them I really do believe is Stalin. So leave it at that. But if you are, I wouldn't say this movie is pro-communism in any way. I wouldn't also call it fully anti-communism. I do feel like it tries to showcase that there was some people involved who did care about the USSR and what it was supposed to stand for. But also it showed a time where there was the people who were saying we're not being aggressive enough to push communism. There's some people who are like, we need to have reforms, and it shows that politics of it, because obviously you have later on you have obviously the USSR will fall in the next 50 years after the events of this movie. Like I said, the events of this movie, most of it was satirical, but there is some, I think, like I said, how things happened, obviously not. I don't think all of them were grabbing his body and trying to bring it out of a room and all that stuff in a funny way. But yeah, it's just an interesting movie. I think it's just fine though. I give it 3.5 just because, like I said, it started to get more serious, and I think they would try to have some levity, and it just didn't really work as much. And it was a little goofy towards the end with that stuff, but like I said, it's both. It has moments where it's serious, and it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But like I said, I wouldn't call this a pro-communism movie by any means. It definitely leans more towards a look how bad the USSR is. But there is a little bit of grace, a little bit, but not really much. Like I said, there's a couple characters who are trying to kind of do the right thing, but then some of them have shitty actions at the end of the day. But yeah, interesting movie. Death of Stalin there. And then for 4th of July, we came home a night early from camping because of no more campfires in Colorado, because we're going through really bad wildfires right now. Like I said at the top, not a very patriotic person. But I mentioned with I'm Cuba that I saw that movie recommended, or at least referenced, in the one Jacobin article I was reading about movies from the 60s, 70s. That kind of the article is more about where were movies at in 1974, but then there was like a little subsection about like movies from different countries that maybe reverse what like a lot of movies maybe were at that point. Like, for example, there's one movie, I forget the name of it, but there was one movie it recommended that was from North Korea, where it was like, it's I think a Chinese agent, or maybe it might have just been North Korean. Maybe I'm thinking of two different movies. I don't know. There was like an agent who's trying to stop a U.S. like CIA operative from like starting a nuclear war. And basically just saying how the roles are reversed, like how many American movies have our hero stopping an evil communist from, doing the same thing of trying to blow up the world or whatever. But it did mention there that there was plenty of good that in the 70s. This movie came out in 1976. That in the era there was still, despite having post Red Scare is still there, but not as aggressive. That was the time when there was a little bit more movies were a little bit more political in the sense that they would critique government, not necessarily left leaning, but like we're skeptical of the government. And they mentioned All the President's Men, and I was reading about it, and it's a movie that was made I think just 2 years after the Watergate scandal, and and it was who Robert Redford plays, what's their names? So basically it's a retelling of how the Watergate scandal went down from the perspective of the Washington Post journalists. So yeah, Robert Redford plays Bob Woodward, and Dustin Hoffman plays Carl Bernstein. This movie, man, like I went in being like, all right, it'll be a cool retelling, but it wound up being just really fantastic. It met the hype and more. I knew a decent amount about the Watergate scandal, but like seeing it this way, and this movie's a noir film, by the way, so there's like some beautiful shots in this movie, and there's a lot of long takes. There's one long take where Robert Redford, as Bob there, is like taking calls. And like if you've seen the movie, like more recently, the one movie there with Mark Ruffalo, is it Robert Downey Jr.? The one where it's about the Boston Globe breaking the Catholic Church scandal there with SAing children and stuff. What's that movie called? It's one of those movies where it's like, a lot happens in like at the workplace or in the writer room, in the newspaper, room or whatever. But he's in there, and there's one scene where it goes on for like 3.5 minutes. It does not cut, and it's him taking multiple phone calls. There's extras moving around, and it felt like you're watching, like I said with I Am Cuba, the same thing. It feels like you're watching a documentary as opposed to a movie, because like it felt so real and lived in. And obviously they shot this within 2 years, so like there's no set. It's not really a set. It's it's real, and it feels real. Watching it feels like you're right there watching it happen. But yeah, he takes like 3 phone calls. There's no cuts. It was so good. And there's a lot of different shots that have no cuts in it, and just fantastic acting and chemistry. It kind of is a good cop, bad cop, but make 'em journalists movie, and it's a noir film, like I said. But the writers who actually broke the Watergate scandal, like they wrote a book, and that's what this movie is based off of. And you can read here that they're actually part of the writing team. So this is like a historical noir drama. And a lot of people have credited this movie as saying this is pretty close to how it went down and what the reaction was, and I didn't realize, I think in our world, right, in our current world with the Twitter and the online, quick reporting, that a scandal can make headlines quicker now. Back then it was just them. for the most part. And then eventually the New York Times reported a little bit too, and they have a competition at that point of New York Times being like, we need to get better sources, we need to get ahead of them, they're ahead of us, that kind of back and forth. What was I saying? But yeah, so like there's like that dynamic with it, but this just shows, like, I didn't realize after watching this movie, but Watergate took like a whole year really to get out, because he was when the first break-in, when they got caught, those people got caught, like it was just like a subtle local story, you know what I mean, and it wasn't connected to them right away. Like they had to go through a bunch of rabbit holes to go find the connection, and this was all happening when Nixon was running for re-election. So it took almost a year and a half for him to resign from it. And then there's a whole dynamic which I thought was just for the movie, but I guess was real, where Bob Woodward would be going to a parking lot and talking to a guy who wouldn't tell him who he was or anything like that, but would tell him if he was correct in his leads. Like, he wouldn't give him leads, but he would tell him if his leads were correct, if his facts were correct. And I guess that was a real thing, and it wound up coming out that it was a former FBI guy at the time. And it's just crazy. But yeah, great movie, fantastic movie, and it was a double feature for me, like I said, because the next night we watched I Am Cuba. So like these two movies, I feel like would be a great double feature, because you have both movies are serious, but I Am Cuba is definitely more of a serious, and like I said, it's a movie about pre-revolution Cuba, like leading up to revolution. I should have added that there's like elements of talking about colonization as well in that movie. But yeah, just watching movies that are connected, and just having those two double features and two movies that are shot somewhat similarly. Like I said, I Am Cuba is black and white. It has a lot of long shots and a lot of wide shots. All the President's Men, similar, has a lot of long shots, but it's more of a noir film. And just seeing the two different type of, it's 10 years difference, but they're both, what the subject matter was, is connected, but also they felt connected visually, if that makes sense. So it makes for a really good double feature. So there's a recommendation for you. Watch All the President's Men, then watch I Am Cuba, if you want a little both entertainment but all a history lesson, in getting different perspectives on things. Even The Death of Stalin, like these three in a row, I feel like have really itched my, like I said, Cold War, Red Scare. I mean, obviously All the President's Men too. One big message you could take from that is like the fact that scandal made Nixon eventually resign, and no president's ever resigned. And like nowadays, there's just open corruption, just right out in the open. It just is, and no one can do anything about it, and no one does anything about it. When this was like, they were so worried about making the connection to Nixon that they were stopping him, left and right. But yeah, it just shows like, like I said, even these three movies in a row just really hit that kind of, and it ties to where we're at now. And I just think it's just been really, really great. So I'm probably going to keep going on this kind of run here. But yeah, that's what I've been watching lately. All right, we're about 20 minutes left here. Just, I think, a perfect amount of time, because now we're on to Dune. You like the Dune films? I love them. Actually, I forgot to mention, Pluribus and Widow's Bay both got nominated. You have 18 Emmys, 19 Emmys for Widow's Bay. I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. No one I know has been talking about Widow's Bay, but we've been watching it, or we finished it. And to get it nominated, it's almost like I know ball, okay? People be recommending TV shows, and it's, we all entertain them, and we watch our Love Islands and whatnot. But Widow's Bay is on Apple TV. I keep saying it. Apple TV, low key, doesn't get enough credit for its originals, especially original TV shows. Because Pluribus and Widow's Bay are so fresh compared to, what I'm seeing on, even what I've been seeing on, like, Hulu and whatnot. Like, they don't got the juice, man. But these got the juice. These got the juice. But yeah, let's talk about Dune. If anything, let's watch the trailer. So there was a new trailer, 2 minutes and 51 seconds. And I am almost done with the first book. I'm on page 536, and I think it goes to... Yeah, it goes to 617. So I'm just under 100. Then it has an appendix here, which has some information. I've read a little bit about that. But from what I've heard from people who have read all the books, obviously we know that Dune Messiah is the main source material for Dune Part 3. It's what Denis Villeneuve has said. But people are saying that based off this trailer, and I'm not going to pretend I know any of these characters based off their appearances or whatnot. I'm only going off what people have said in terms of characters and stuff. But people who have read the books have said that they're not really sure where this movie's going to go, because the books obviously have some type of continuation, and my understanding there's like some time jumping, especially after Dune Messiah. But I've seen some people say they're like, oh, I'm not sure how they're going to conclude this. Even though, at least, Denis Villeneuve said he's only making 3 movies. So this is it. I mean, obviously, one negative of corporations is if things make a lot of money, they will be like, we'll find someone else to continue the story. Obviously, you have a Star Wars as a perfect example, related, right? Of, where they will just be like, oh, we're gonna have 3 directors. We have 2 directions going on at the same time. But can't worry about that right now. There's also the Dune TV show I've yet to watch, but I guess that's based off of Children of Dune, loosely, people have said. But people have said that who've read the books, they said, yes, this looks like it's based off Dune Messiah, but they're not really sure if he's going to pull from different parts of the other books to conclude this story. How will it conclude? We will see. But let's watch it quickly, and then we'll go a little bit more in detail. I found some interesting tweets about, because the cinematographer is different. I forget his last name, but the cinematographer is different. It's not the same cinematographer who's done the first 2 movies, who also did Project Hail Mary, The Batman, to name a couple other ones he's done. This is a different cinematographer, even though Denis Villeneuve has clearly his own vision with cinematography, right? That you can see throughout his films. But let's just watch this, and it might look different. If you've seen the other 2 movies, it does look a little bit different in terms of lighting and stuff, and color palettes slightly.
I trusted you! You promised me that you would never take power in your name. You convinced me that this was your home. That I was your home.
What do you know about me?
You've conquered the galaxy. You've destroyed thousands of worlds.
Oh yeah, these... I got the same impression. I don't think it is directly, but people are like, oh, it's like Planet of the Apes with they have the apes on the these stretchers, I guess you can call them, out in towards the end of the desert, because it looks like there's some type of city here. This could be I mean, this is on Arrakis, I would believe. This could be Arakeen here, potentially. I'm not sure who this is. For sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're way
We got our boy Duncan Idaho back, which I knew he was gonna come back. That's like, I've been spoiled a little bit on Dune stuff, and it's okay because the books have, even though I know what's gonna happen in the books, it's still been a very good book. Been a lot different though from the, because I'm still really, like, I guess in the middle of the second movie in terms of the book right now. And there's been a lot of different changes for sure, that which I think were good for the movie's sake, but there's some cool stuff in it that weren't even like put into the movies.
Why are you here?
to deliver a peace proposal.
Peace is a good thing. Why should I refuse?
This looks sick as fuck right here. We got these cloaked dudes in this floating like sarcophagus coffin thing, and people said that this thing or character is weird as fuck. And then this guy, played by our GOAT, Robert Pattinson, who's having a great year right now, crushing it. You know, I won't even call him side quest, because as we wait for the Batman Part 2, he's just doing all these amazing roles right now. But he's playing a character called Skytail, I think is what the character's name is, and I guess he's kind of a freak. I don't know what that means. A lot of people describe many Dune characters as freaks, so I don't know what really that means. But I'm hoping to get to it, because my goal is to finish at least, I think it's the first 3 books of Dune. At least get through Dune Messiah before this one comes out. But I want to get ahead to see if any of those elements get into these movies.
Because it's meant to destroy you.
I saw people who were big fans of the books. They said that, like, oh my god, they actually have this scene in it when the Fremen see water for the first time. They're like, I'm gonna cry at the theater.
The core of Imperial power.
You intend to kill Paul?
Regime change.
People said Skytail's supposed to have a really creepy voice, but he doesn't have a creepy voice here. Maybe we'll get more of it. I think this is his only line in the movie, or in this trailer. People were obsessing over this scene and pointing to Lawrence of Arabia, which I need to watch. I definitely want to watch it before this movie comes out, because I know Denis Villeneuve's talked about it. I know it's like considered a classic from the 60s there. I think it's late 60s, where there's literally a shot of a character in that movie, also with a blue background, and looks very similar. Probably an homage, right, to it.
Idiot. You've just signed our death warrants.
I found.
Everyone was obsessing over this shot. I agree. Oh, Skytail does keep this up a couple more lines. Fucking moon looks gorgeous. Very H.R. Geiger here as well. I mean, we saw this from the other teaser. Like just the. I'm a sucker for this shit. I love textures in sci-fi, man. Like, it just looks fucking great.
The future has a way of talking to me. I can't see what's ahead.
How does it feel to be human like everyone else, Paul Atreides?
This scene, similar to one of his shots in Blade Runner too.
You have no fear, do you?
I fear dishonor.
It's Anya Taylor-Joy as
So like
Alaya, I think is their name. She's in the book, but as a 2-year-old who can, who is an adult though, like mentally. like, and has superpowers, which I feel like is only going to get weirder from what I have heard. But she's already weird in the book, or at least where I'm at, where she's 2 years old, but she talks like an adult and can see the future and read people's minds or something, to almost read people's minds, or at least get their feelings. Really, really creepy. I think she's in the David Lynch Dune movie, if I'm not mistaken. I think she was in that one.
I'm told I was one.
Alice need. Sandworm.
Forgive me
Shai Halud.
all I've done.
$12.18, baby. $12.18. Dude, I'm mad that I don't have a 70mm screening near me. Closest one is San Francisco. I thought about it. I thought about go seeing my brother and being like, we're gonna see Dune Part 2 on the 70mm. There's one in Rochester. People should take advantage of that. You know who I'm talking about. The people of Rochester. Alright? You need to go there. But all those screenings actually sold out, but I'm assuming they will do more, right? I'm assuming that's how it would work. But I know Dune has all the premium screenings for at least the first weekend versus Marvel there. And that's what my fear is like, if I did go to San Francisco, if I didn't see it opening night, would it all of a sudden then be freaking Avengers? We'll see if Avengers moves up. I still have a feeling they might. They might move up a week or move back a week. I know some people are trying to do a Barbieheimer, but I'm a hater, man. I don't want that. I don't want Marvel to get none, dude. We're on the Dune train. It's Dune. It's either Dune or get out of the way. All right. But I keep saying this. I've said it before many times. I am genuinely very excited for this movie. Part 2 is one of my favorite movies in the last forever. I have it in my top 4. I know it's cheesy, but I have a more recent movie in your top 4 on Letterboxd. But it generally was very one of my favorite movie experiences. I saw it multiple times, but that movie really did really hit me to the core in a way I really can't describe. And I've said it before, if this Part 3 hits, even if somehow exceeds Part 2, I think you gotta have a serious conversation about what will Dune's impact be on science fiction movies from here on out. Because obviously you have Star Wars, and Star Wars is based off Dune, but you have Star Wars in the 70s. But I have argued that Star Wars is more of a science fiction, like fantasy, more closer to a high fantasy than it is a science fiction, a grounded science fiction, which this one is. I mean, there's fantasy elements to Dune as well, but it's much more of a grounded science fiction, and I think it could have the same impact Lord of the Rings has for its genre. That's what my argument is. I've seen some people trying to compare the two, saying, will it be better than Lord of the Rings? And I don't think that's a fair comparison because they're two separate genres. It's an apple and orange situation where, is Dune to be the orange, right? Lord of the Rings is the apple. And I say this because I just don't think it's fair to compare those movies. And also I just think people get too much into hype and stuff like that and start shitting on or having retroactive feelings on things. Because I love the Lord of the Rings movies, but Lord of the Rings was impactful in the sense that it got general audiences to give a shit about fantasy. And we mean fantasy, where there's orcs and goblins and hobbits and elves. You know what I mean? It made people give a shit about that stuff. Because before Lord of the Rings, you were a nerd if you liked that shit. It's it made that type of Dungeons and Dragons, made it okay to like in the general sphere. you know, your grandma all of a sudden really liked fantasy stuff. You know what I mean? And obviously then it inspired a lot of stuff afterwards. Like, you don't get Game of Thrones. You don't get Game of Thrones in the general, you know, I don't think in the general sphere of general audiences enjoying something like that. Obviously, I'd argue Game of Thrones is a little bit more, even more of a mature version of Lord of the Rings, obviously, because it has a lot of adult stuff in it, but much more of a closer to a almost a darker fantasy, right? But Dune is, like I said, I'm gonna stand on, if this movie hits the hype, and I have high expectations for it, that Dune can be a movie series that we'll talk about for the next 20, 30 years, just like we do about Lord of the Rings, where people are going to want the box sets, people are going to want the, you know, when it comes to, it will rescreen occasionally. So I keep saying this, like, if you like anything loosely science fiction and you haven't watched these movies, you're doing yourself a disservice. I know people say that about things they like, but I generally do believe that we are hitting the perfect mix of blockbuster and well-made movies right here. And we've also getting these all within 5 years. We get the Marvel movies, right? You get a couple every year, and people complain about the quality of them. People need to start putting their, you know, money where their mouth is and be like, go support these type of movies if you like this quality of work. Because Denis Villeneuve, you know, with Blade Runner, I really enjoyed that. A lot of people who liked Blade Runner really enjoyed that, but I didn't really do well in the box office. And that's a shame. Granted, not all success needs to be tied to money. Whatever. People, you know, I get there's a lot of great movies out there that never, you know, get into theaters. But I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those, like I said, genre-changing, important times. So it's just like, if you give a shit, I think you are doing yourself disservice. I think the first two movies will definitely be back in theaters, maybe in IMAX if we're lucky. The other ones were, I got to watch Dune Part 1 again in IMAX like 2 weeks before Dune Part 2 came out, and it had like a special showing of a scene from the second movie. It was really cool. So there's opportunities to go see it in theaters, and that's the other thing, is like these movies are made to watch on the big screen, the biggest screen you could possibly find. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna be kind of a fanboy about this shit and be like, please go watch these movies. Like, I genuinely do believe they will be important for at least the science fiction genre, if not, you know, even maybe fantasy genre in general. And we'll see where Denis Villeneuve's career comes off of this, because this was his biggest success. He made Arrival, he made Blade Runner, and those movies, you know, were really good, but they didn't get the commercial success he's getting it now. And there's a reason for that, is because I think there is an appetite for great stories and great cinematography, great casting, great actors, great actresses doing phenomenal work, and it's hitting on all cylinders. And it's one of those things where I'm like I said, just like you're not helping yourself if you're not seeing this stuff. But yeah, there's some cool elements with this movie. So yeah, there's a scene about which you kind of get a glimpse of the looks like almost like the spice getting flown into the camera, and I guess like that might be one of the scenes where I guess he said he hired 2 young filmmakers to create crazy psychedelic footage for Dune Part 3. He said, I created a special tiny unit of 2 filmmakers, and their task was to do experiments in front of the camera to bring some crazy, insane footage for the movie. But I guess part of the inspiration for the visions in Dune, I'm assuming those are tied together, but he said he got high off his son's edible one, so I think that's funny as hell. But I have this video here, hopefully it lets me watch it because I'm not logged in. Why this also looks visually different, because like I said, I have a new cinematographer, but I believe some parts of the movie were shot on film and other parts were digital. And I believe the film part was all the space shit, I think is what I've read, but let me see. I don't remember if they say in this video. Alright, well, they don't let me play it. But yeah, well, as we get closer, I'm sure we'll get more of a breakdown of this stuff, and honestly, once this movie comes out, I'll probably do a deep dive review on this channel for it. It's one of my top contenders for my top 5 movies this year. Dune Part 2 was my number 1 2 years ago. But now we got another one. This one's, I don't have as much to talk about because they don't show much. But we got another Godzilla Minus Zero teaser where it's 30 seconds, so it's a teaser. We had a preview last time, and it was also like 20 seconds. And yeah, I'll just let it play.
Godzilla は核攻撃にも耐えるそうですな。
それは人間のやっていいことの範疇を超えてる。あんた自分が一体何してるのか分かってんのかよ。
A crime and punishment. Returning to zero is not an option. There's my BB boy. So we saw a similar shot, if not the same shot, but this one seems a little bit longer, a little bit more wide shot from the first teaser where he's coming out of the water. I did see someone point this out on Twitter where you can literally see the sonic wave of the water off of him because he's going that quick out of the water. Hold on, let me see if I can get it. Yeah, right there. It's like it bounces up like a second after. This movie won, or the first one won. Godzilla won his first ever Golden Globe Award for special effects, and it deserved it because the water scenes, especially in the last movie, it looked like a practical effect. I thought it was practical until afterwards they're like, no, everything there was no practical effects, which is crazy. Like it's very Jaws. This last Godzilla movie, in case you're unaware, this is a sequel to Godzilla Minus One, which was arguably Godzilla's biggest. I think it was Godzilla's biggest financial, at least from Toho's end, so the Japanese company that owns Godzilla, not the Legendary Picture ones, was the best financial box office for Godzilla ever. And I would argue, and I've talked to other Godzilla fans who say the same, or at least put it in their top 3, but I say Godzilla Minus One is the best Godzilla movie ever made, which is, and I'm a big Godzilla fan, big super fan if you can't tell, but Godzilla Minus One, if I had to tell someone to get into Godzilla, I'm pointing to that one in a heartbeat. I wouldn't hesitate at all. Before Godzilla Minus One, it was kind of hard to recommend Godzilla films to people who maybe are interested, because it really depended on what they like about movies. Like, do you want human characters? Because that's kind of tough, because there's not too many, I would say, too many good Godzilla movies with great human characters, except for, like, I enjoyed some of the more early 2000s ones, and some of the 90s ones. Obviously, a lot of people point to the 90s ones as a good series to watch because it was a little bit more serious, because in the Showa era, that's except for like the first couple movies, Godzilla became very goofy and was made for children, which is what a lot of people used to think Godzilla was about, despite the 90s ones existing. But the last couple Godzilla movies in the 2000s were really good, but before Godzilla Minus One is what I'm trying to say. It's really tough to recommend. I really love Shin Gojira in 2015, made by Anno there, who made Evangelion. He basically made an Evangelion movie, but make it Godzilla. And he did Shin Ultraman. He did Shin Kamen Rider as well. And then he did a new Evangelion, and he had those 4 movies all come out within like 8 years of each other, and that was kind of felt like that was gonna be the new revitalization of all those things. And when I went to Japan, like all those, there was like a marketing behind all 4 of those properties, for sure. But Shin Godzilla at the time was the first Godzilla movie in 12 years, and then we had to wait another almost 8 years again for Godzilla Minus Zero or Minus One. And I had high expectations because it looked like they were trying to make it serious. But I recommend Godzilla Minus One to anyone who wants to, even if you don't even like Godzilla or care about giant monster movies. Godzilla Minus One is a good just movie in general, like standalone thing. You don't need to watch any Godzilla movies. You don't really need to know anything about Godzilla. But also you can just enjoy it for what it is, because it's also a post-war movie, Japan after World War II. It's a good drama. I almost cried multiple times because of the main characters in that movie. So I recommend Godzilla Minus One to anyone who wants to get into Godzilla, just because I think that's the best one. And like I said, I think it's like a good movie just on its own right. You don't need here on this channel we do video game movies, and we always say video game movies we grade them on a curve. There definitely was a Godzilla curve, I would say, but Godzilla Minus One was in its own category. And even Shin Godzilla I thought was pretty risky with how they went about that movie, and they let Anno cook there, and but that one felt like a little bit too stylized that I don't know if a general audience member would fuck with it as much. But I think a general audience member can go into Godzilla Minus One and have a good time and maybe even cry by the end of the movie. It was the first Godzilla movie for sure where you're like, okay, the human characters are great, these are good, and you actually were like genuinely caring about them and their safety and their well-being, compared to other Godzilla movies, easily. But like I said, even the cinematography was great. Special effects really good, especially for a low budget movie. I'm assuming they got a bigger budget for this one, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, that was all we got. So they say 2 years have passed since the first one. This is kind of like, so Godzilla in the last one, when he was about to shoot his atomic breath, all his spikes would go up, but he has a bigger spike on the end of his tail here, this go around. So I don't know if that means something. It sounds like he's been nuked. I think we saw that in the last one, that he got re-nuked. I'm not going to spoil what happened in the first one, but I don't know how that ties in with how that movie ended. Looks like there's a piece of Godzilla here, this is a new shot. People have had theories, is there 2 Godzillas, one from the original one and one a new one? I don't know if that's the case. We have our main characters back again. Seems to be a conflict between the 2 of them. What the hell are you doing? And that ties to, looks like a bomb, an atomic bomb, or some type of nuclear weapon. People have also pointed out that he looks bigger. It's kind of hard to tell if he is bigger. I'm assuming they'll probably make him bigger. That's kind of a trope they've done. I should have mentioned that this is the first sequel Godzilla movie too since Godzilla Tokyo SOS, which was 2002, 3, where there was 2 Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla movies. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and it was Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Because after those and around the same time of those, they would have the only sequel element would be that Godzilla came in the very first Godzilla movie, 1954. He's back again, or it was new. Godzilla was like, oh, this is the first time we've seen him. So there's a lot of canons in the Godzilla universe. So they've played around with that. Shin Godzilla was the same thing. Godzilla never existed in any of the universe. He just appeared, and that's how the movie goes. There's no other kaiju or anything like that. People have been speculating, is there another kaiju in this movie? I think there is. Some people have been joking, it would be really funny that they keep teasing in this you can't really tell, and in the first one we can't really tell, except for in that first teaser we saw floating rock of some sort, some type of like anti-gravity something, and a lot of people keep pointing to King Ghidorah. I think that's what it is too. I love King Ghidorah. We'll see how he would, do that. But King Ghidorah has also been adapted a couple different ways, a couple different times. So in one way, I'm like, all right, I'm okay. I love King Ghidorah. I trust him to do something interesting with King Ghidorah. But at the same time, I'm like, I would have been okay if it was something new, or you bring back a monster that's only been in like one movie before. I know Yamazaki, who's directing this, has stated that Hedorah, the smog monster, which is one of my favorites, that he loves that he loves that kaiju, he loves that monster as an idea. I don't think he would be in this movie. I think we would have gotten something like that, because that's supposed to be like about pollution and stuff. But they did drop a new banner here, and we see Godzilla doing kind of a classic pose for him. And he's kind of looking up, and it seems to be electricity and yellow light. Once again, people are like, that's pretty King Ghidorah. I've been seeing some memes of being like, it's Anguirus who now has zero gravity powers, which is funny. People just, making jokes. But I think this is King Ghidorah. I know when they first showed the yellow clouds, even before the very first teaser, people were talking about, is that Mothra? I could still see Mothra. You could squeeze Mothra in here in some capacity. He could be redoing Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, with this to some degree, which was the first King Ghidorah movie back in '64, I want to say it was, where it was Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, and Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra all team up to defeat King Ghidorah. But I can see him keeping it simple. There was a Godzilla ride that Yamazaki did where King Ghidorah was one of the monsters in it. I think it was the only other monster in it. So it was Godzilla, and he was fighting King Ghidorah, and you're like in a little helicopter kind of thing, flying around. So like, it wouldn't surprise me if he went that direction, because he's clearly had these ideas in the past, and he fully fleshes them out. Because even when Godzilla Minus One came out, he did make that Godzilla ride, and it looked similar in style. So there was like kind of not surprising in that way when it came out. Obviously, like I said, it was more fleshed out. There's characters, blah blah blah, instead of, you're on the ride and you're seeing a battle take place. Then he also did a similar Godzilla in one of his other movies where it's also taking place in the same time period. So like he isn't afraid to be like, hey, I did this one-off little thing before, I'm now going to fully flesh it out. So I really do think it's going to be King Ghidorah. There was also this here, because people are being like, originally I wasn't even sure if I wanted a sequel, but they kind of, how the first movie ended could hint at a sequel, but they've done the same thing before and then not make a sequel. But here's what it says. Japan, which has been reduced to nothing but zero. Can't really read what that says. We were plunged into negativity, or minus Godzilla 2 years since then. This is like loosely translating this, by the way. After struggling and suffering through reconstruction, just when they thought they'd finally reached normal life, a new pinnacle of despair strikes, completely shattering any hope they have. Directed, written, and with VFX by Takashi Yamazaki, winner of the '96 Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, goes beyond the world-renowned Godzilla Minus One. There will be no third time. Let's end it all here. So also, being very direct here, be like, this will have a conclusion in some way. But if the movie does well and Yamazaki still has his ideas, they will still let him, keep cooking. But I've been on the record of saying, like, what I like about Godzilla is that some of them have sequels, but a lot of them are just standalone things, and I think that's totally okay. I think if you have an idea, I like that Toho in the last, like I said, 20 years is kind of just let directors cook with ideas that they want. And I think that's what make Godzilla more of a vessel for expressing a specific idea. I'm really excited. This is a top 5 contender for sure. Minus One is the best Godzilla movie, like I said, and I stand by that. It's one easily my top 5 favorite Godzilla movies. I'm really intrigued what they're gonna do. I know he's gonna come to New York City. I don't know what that looks like. But yeah, I don't know what the plot is so far. They've been really keeping the cards close, but they did the same thing with the first one where they really didn't show anything until that month before, and even then you really didn't know what you were getting yourself into, except for I was like, all right, this seems to be like a 1954, the original movie, loosely adaptation. But this one, I don't know. I know some people theorize, like, what if they do, if he continues, you know, there was the second Godzilla movie ever made where he does fight Anguirus, but in the English cut, they call them both Godzilla, even though they look nothing alike. Could there be two Godzillas? Could it be one is buffed up from the first one, and there's a second one that they try to, you know, manipulate or something with the nuke? So there's a lot of crazy ideas out there, and it's really fun. Maybe as we get closer and we get a little bit more details, I'll do more of a deep dive, but I don't think there's enough here. Like, I could be spending all evening here really, like, pitching different ideas, but it probably isn't going to be anything, I don't think, more crazier than probably, I think it's just going to be a King Ghidorah versus Godzilla movie of some sort. But maybe King Ghidorah, like I said, could be a villain. Maybe Godzilla becomes an anti-hero. Maybe it's just the humans will have to kill both of them kind of situation, let them fight. We will see. We will see, but this graphic looks really cool. His mouth, and I'm not the first to notice this, his mouth is a little bit more closed, look almost more like the 90s Godzilla design, which is pretty cool. But yeah, he looks beefy here. Beefy here again. But yeah, we got fucking Dune. So Godzilla's November 6th there, his birthday. You know, we'll see what comes out. So still a lot of time to go, still a lot of movies to see. The Odyssey comes out next weekend. I'm really hyped about that. Obviously, that could be a contender for top 5. We'll see which Nolan we get, but I've only heard great things with the reviews. People saying that it is might be Nolan's best work. So we'll see. We will see. Yeah, will we get Dark Knight Rises Nolan, or will we get Interstellar or Oppenheimer Nolan? You know what I mean? But all right, we almost hit the 2-hour mark here, so I need to stop yapping. I can feel it. We're gonna be going to see Evil Dead Burn tonight. I've not seen. I've seen all the original Evil Deads, and I've seen parts of the remake, the 2013 one, and I know there was Evil Dead Rise a couple years ago. I didn't see that. But I heard I don't need to watch those ones to understand this one. Like, I don't think there's, like, a continued canon necessarily. It's kind of more of a Twilight Zone kind of thing where, yes, there's a universe, but, like, you know, it's just, here's a scary story for you, you know? So I'm seeing that tonight, so I gotta make sure I don't tire myself out too much, because it's a little bit more of a later showing than we typically go to, but... I think there's other stuff that are slowly coming out, but Odyssey's the big one next week, so I'm going to try to see that. I'm going to start working on this one. I've shot it, but I need to flesh it out more, but there should be a movie review, but not in the one way that I typically do it, coming out, and for an older movie. So look out for that, hopefully soon. Maybe it'll be out by the time I stream next, but maybe not. But yeah, that is it, folks. I'll catch you next time. If you enjoyed me yapping, if you like Godzilla and Dune, you're in the right spot. Make sure to subscribe, you know, hit the like button, all those things, and comment what stuff you've been watching and what you're looking forward to. Love to hear from you. But yeah, we do a lot of stuff on this channel. We're a variety channel, so we have video game stuff, like discussions, and from Ethan's end, we play old retro video games. We play some new stuff here and there. We also review video game movies. We've been doing that for a long time now. We've watched a lot of them. Resident Evil comes out later this year. That's going to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to that. For example, we'll be reviewing that for sure. But yeah, we're a variety channel. I do other movie reviews that are a little bit more polished than this. I haven't done one since Project Hail Mary, so it's been a minute, but like I said, I'm working on something fun. that's similar. But appreciate everyone watching live and whoever's watching the VOD. I'll catch you next time. See you at the movies. Bye.